Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, John Bollman, who does great work with the show/podcast Baseball with Bowman. On top of that, I know that he's doing an excellent job with the Breaking Back show, which our good friend Johnny Venezia does. That's a little bit more on the college baseball front, and he's going to be joining me to talk about what he's all seen here in the first 2+ months of the MLB season. Additionally, we're going to be diving in on some of these games for Friday, and he's going to outline just how bad it's been for the Oakland/Sacramento A's, however you want to call them, Las Vegas. You pick your option there, but the A's have been really struggling, and we're going to be talking about that and so much more here in the second segment, and then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're about firing whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Do not get in any Twitter/X questions, but everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is allowing bettors to be able to access their funds 24/7, 365 in leap years, 366 days out of the year, as it's an account set up to be able to approve all gambling-related transactions. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Now, I did get tasked with the VSiN show cashing out for Thursday, so there are a few games that are going to be in progress as I wrap this up, especially with the very long rain delay that we saw with the Astros versus Pirates, so unfortunately don't have anything there. But what I do have for you is that the Atlanta Braves completely pooped down their leg against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Not peed, they pooped down their leg. 11-10 the final for the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that was down 6 runs with no men on and 1 out in the 9th inning. And then the Atlanta Braves bullpen happened. As for the Atlanta Braves, Grant Holmes was not long for this game. 3 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, and then from there, Aaron Bummer, he did not live up to his name. 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Aniel De Los Santos, 2 scoreless innings, and then you had Mr. Scott Blewett live up to his name. He had a scoreless inning, and then he gave up 5 runs, including 3 bombs in the 9th inning. Going deep for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, his 11th home run of the season. Lourdes Gurriel, his 9th home run of the season. Then Alec Thomas, his 2nd home run of the campaign. And then Rossio Iglesias, his struggles continued. 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning for the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, it does away what was really good with their lineup, as Ronald Acuna Jr. went deep for his 4th home run of the season. Austin Riley went deep for his 8th home run season, and those all came off of Tommy Henry, and this one also came off of Tommy Henry, as Drake Baldwin was able to go deep. He got home run number 7 of the campaign. As for Arizona, Brandon Pfaadt was not long for this game as well. 6 runs, 5 of which were earned. Give it up in 3 innings. Tommy Henry gives up 3 solo home runs over the course of 4 innings. Kendall Graveman, a inning out of the bullpen, gives up a run, and Shelby Miller scoreless 9th inning to be able to get the save. So that was wild and crazy, to say the least. What else has been wild and crazy has been the overs in Sacramento games, as currently they're your second best over team in all of baseball, with having played 35 overs, 23 unders, and 3 pushes. And if you look specifically at their home games for Sacramento, darn near 2/3 of them are going over the total. 21 overs to 11 unders, and they got their second win in their last 22 games. They were 1-20 in their last 21 games, and they get the job done against the Minnesota Twins 14-3. So they took out a lot of frustration on David Festa. 8 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings, including a trio of bombs. Tyler Soderstrom goes deep for his 13th home run of the season. You had Mr. Jacob Wilson get his 8th home run of the season. Then Max Muncy, no, not that Max Muncy, 2nd home run of the season. Soderstrom then goes deep off of Ori Alcala, home run number 14 of the campaign. Alcala a third of an inning. He gives up 3 runs. Cody Funderburk gives up a run in 2 innings. And Jonah Bride, position player, gives up 2 runs over the course of 2 innings, former Athletic. And Matt Wallner was able to go deep, 3rd home run season. That comes off of Mitch Spence, who went 5 innings, gave up that solo home run. From there, Sean Newcomb, 2 runs allowed in 1 2/3 innings. You had from there Mason Miller, a scoreless inning. And Michael Kelly was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the San Francisco Giants, they find a way to persevere and get the job done against the San Diego Padres. This by kind of 3-2 as Dylan Cease gives up 3 runs in 5 innings. He's been having a rough season. But from there, Yuki Matsui, a scoreless inning. David Morgan, 2 scoreless innings. And you did have Manny Machado go deep off of Robbie Ray. So hip hip hooray for his 8th home run season. And that was pretty much the lone mistake that Robbie Ray made. He's got 9 strikeouts, 2 runs in total allowed over the course of 7 innings. Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Yodoval. From there, they both give you a scoreless inning. The Baltimore Orioles, don't let them get hot, as I believe that this is 6 straight wins for them as they get the job done by a count of 4-3 over Seattle. Zach Eflin, not effing great, not effing awful. 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Cal Raleigh, big dumper, 24th home run season. Brian Wu said hip hip boo to giving up 4 runs in 6 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Baltimore was able to get home runs out of Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. Rutschman his 7th home run season, Henderson his 8th, and then both bullpens from there rock solid. Keegan Aiken, Andrew Kittredge, Brian Baker, all lend a scoreless inning for Baltimore, and then scoreless innings for Seattle out of Casey Lugumina, Gabe Spire, and Carlos Vargas. And for the LA Dodgers, they rallied to be able to get the job done against the New York Metropolitans, this by a count of 6-5, as for the Mets, you had Starling Marte of the Marte Parte go deep for his 4th home run season, Brandon Nimmo his 10th, and Pete Alonso his 15th home run season. Those all come off of Landon Knack. For Knack, he did get knacked around, giving up 4 runs, those 3 bombs in 3 1/3 innings, but bullpen from there pretty rock solid. Jack Dreyer, 2 scoreless innings. Jose Arena, 2 1/3 innings. He allows a run. Alex Vesia not out of the bullpen. Tanner Scott, a scoreless inning. And with regards to this New York Mets team, you had a solid start out of David Peterson, 3 runs allowed in 7 innings, and then Reed Garrett. He gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, only 1 of which was hurt. Brett Bader out there in the field, and then Brandon Waddell, he was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and you had plenty of outs out of the bullpen from the Toronto Blue Jays as they get the job done over the Philadelphia Phillies, this by kind of 9-1. As for the Phillies, Jesus Luzardo, 8 runs allowed in 2 1/3 innings. He's now allowed 20 runs in his last 2 starts. He gives up 1 home run in this one, going deep for Toronto. Bo Bichette, his 8th home run season, and then Chris Bassett had Yoke, Line, and Sinker, 7 innings. He allows 1 run. Mason Fluharty, Eric Swanson, they both on a scoreless inning. And I mean, for the Phillies bullpen, they honestly weren't bad. You had 1 run given up in 2 innings by Seth Johnson. You had the position player, Weston Wilson, give you a scoreless inning. Taiwan Walker, a scoreless inning. Max Laser, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, but way too little, way too late on that front. Currently, you've got the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals wrapping up a double dip. Game number 1 went the way of the Cardinals, this by a count of 6-5. As for the Royals, a really good start out of Noah Cameron. 6 scoreless innings. From there, John Schreiber gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in a 1/3 of an inning. Daniel Lynch gives up a run in an inning, and then Taylor Clark, 2/3 of an inning. He does allow a solo job as Ivan Herrera gets his 6th home run of the campaign, and then you go to extra innings with Jonathan Bowen giving you a scoreless inning, but Carlos Aceves gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. Walk-off winner by Wilson Contreras to be able to get the job done. And Jonathan India, leadoff home run off of Miles Michaelis, the 2nd home run of the campaign. Michaelis gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. Riley O'Brien from there, he was able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. John King, and out of the bullpen himself, Ryan Elsley gives up a run in an inning, and JoJo Romero gives up an unearned run in extra innings. So the St. Louis Cardinals find a way there. And currently, as I'm doing this, it's in the middle of the game between the Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals in Game 2, and Royals are up 6-5 in what's been a gong show. Cole Ragans, fresh off the injured list, gives up 5 runs over the course of 3 innings, including a home run to Nolan Arenado. 7th home run season. Matthew Lubator is right now just eating it for the St. Louis Cardinals. He has filled 4 innings. He has given up 6 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs, as you had Mr. Mikel Garcia get his 6th home run of the campaign, and Freddie Fermin, home run number 2. So, yep, that is very much exploding out there. The Chicago Cubs are on their way to being able to get a win over the Washington Nationals, currently up 5-0 in the bottom of the 8th inning, as Drew Pomeranz was the opener for Colin Ray, who said hip hip hooray to 5 1/3 inning scoreless. Pomeranz, scoreless inning. Caleb Theobar and Brad Keller have been mixing and matching from there, and then pair of home runs for the Cubs as Pete Armstrong, 16th home run season off Jake Irvin, and then Jackson Rutledge, who's really going through it. He gives one up to Ian Happ, 4th home run season for Irvin. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. Not great, not terrible. Rutledge gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Zach Brzezinski, Andrew Chafin from there have given you a scoreless inning, and barring something extreme, this is going to be an under for the Chicago Cubs, who have played 34 overs, 22 unders, and 5 pushes thus far this season. This game is currently midstream as I'm doing this, but Looks like the Yankees might be providing an under against the Cleveland Guardians. This is 2-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning. Not a bad start here from Slade Sassoni of the Cleveland Guardians. Goes 5 innings. He allows 2 runs. He did give up a home run. It's going deep for the Yankees. Cody Bellinger, 9th home run of the season. And for Max Fried, he just continues to be amazing. 6 scoreless innings. He gives up 1 hit along the way. Mark Leiter Jr. and Tim Hill, they combine for a scoreless inning. And for the Cleveland Guardians, currently they've got Jacob Junis coming out of the bullpen. He has won 1 2/3 innings scoreless as I record this. And currently the Walker Texas Rangers up on the Rays, this by a count of 2-1. So we'll see how this one materializes. But Jack Leiter Jr., solid start here. Solo home run, give it up in 5 innings. A Junior Caminero, 15th home run of the season. And you've had from there, Hobie Miller come in there, hold down the fort for the Texas Rangers, and a pair of homers for the Texas Rangers with Marcus Semien, 5th home run season. Jake Berger is 8th, as both of these guys have very much struggled, and they both go deep off of Ryan Pepiot, who was able to fill 6 innings, giving up those 2 solo home runs. And if you're taking a look at baseball and what we're getting trend-wise out there, it has been a very underwhelming season thus far in Major League Baseball, with the under hitting at about 53.3%, 474 unders, 415 overs, with a few games pending for Thursday, and money line favorites hitting at about 57.5%, 530 and 391 on the money line. Meanwhile, last 7 days in baseball, again, with a few games pending for Thursday, favorites are actually having a losing record, 45 and 47 on the money line. That's rough there, and we've had 48 unders to 43 overs, so 52.7% to the under. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we currently have trend-wise in Major League Baseball. And coming up next, we're going to talk with our good friend John Bollman, who does great work over at Baseball with Bollman, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as John Bollman does such a tremendous job looking at this great sport of baseball. You're able to catch him with his show, podcast, what have you, over at Baseball with Bollman. Additionally, I know that he's been doing some great work over at RotoWire with our good friend Johnny Venezia on the Breaking Bet podcast, as John doesn't just do a great job on the MLB front, he's also this time of year a wizard when it comes to college baseball as well. And as we know, that is very much a hot, heavy time of year right now with the College World Series going on. And you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at John Bollman. His first and last name is spelled Bollman, the number 11 all together. And John, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, as always, thanks for having me, man. We got a big weekend of baseball coming up.
Oh, we certainly do. And with regards to what we've got this weekend, just how do you take a look at things right now in this sport where it feels like the American League is a big giant hodgepodge right now, and that National League race, especially with those NL West teams, I think it's going to be one that is going to be just very hot and heavy all summer long.
Yeah, I mean, this is also the time of year where it starts getting crazy. The first couple months, you kind of know which teams are trending well. This is the time of year where, we're starting to get in the dog days of summer, starting to get towards the trade deadline where teams are starting to think of, what trade deadline moves where they're going to make. This time of year in baseball is always tough. It's really interesting to see which teams will start trending well. We're seeing the Orioles go on a little bit of a run right now. Might be too little too late. We'll see. But, they're playing well, and we're seeing some other teams really start to struggle, especially the A's.
Yeah, with the Athletics, man, they've went down the toilet bowl now. The good news for them is that they were able to restore a little bit of order on Thursday. But how do you evaluate a team like the A's where, in the first 40 or so games of the season, it wasn't looking like they'd be a postseason team or anything like that, but they were relatively respectable. And over the last, we're going to call it 3, maybe 4 weeks, things have just went straight down the tubes.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they definitely made some signings in the offseason that, you would think would make this team at least somewhat able to contend. I don't think many people thought that they would be in the playoff picture, even, about a month ago when they were. But, they had some good young guys. They had some good guys in the middle of that lineup. They just haven't been playing well for a very long time now. A guy like Mason Miller is having a pretty tough season. And, he's a guy that you need at the back end of your bullpen to be just a stud. And he usually is. But, when a guy like that goes down, they've had one of the worst bullpens in the league, and usually they're pretty good with their bullpen. Obviously, they're also playing in Sacramento right now, so that definitely doesn't help, playing at that ballpark. And I don't know how many, families would be living around there, or if these players are living alone. That's tough, not being around your family constantly and just thinking about baseball. So I think there are a ton of factors that go into the Athletics right now.
Yeah, with the Oakland A's, it's been a rough season for them to say the least, and now they're going to be playing against the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kramer, we know, is going to be on the bump for the Orioles, and you talk about the A's struggles. I recognize the Orioles have played a little bit better recently, but that's another team where it's been rough for them. And how do you evaluate the series between the Orioles and the A's? Because it just screams me a lot of runs with the way that both of these bullpens have been so awful this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think fading the A's is a good bet in any circumstance right now. I think they've won, I think they're 2-20 in their last 22 games, something insane like that. It's in baseball, you don't think that's really possible, especially in Major League Baseball when there's a ton of parity. But, and the Orioles are actually playing really well. I mean, I think they just won their 6th game in a row. They're starting to heat up. So, like I said, I don't know if the Orioles are, too far away to, actually contend, but they're starting to make a bit of a run. I think playing the Orioles against the A's is a no-brainer right now.
Yep, and it's going to be Dean Kramer on the bump for the Orioles, which that always has me a little bit conflicted because I just never trusted Dean Kramer. I just can't do it with him, but that said, the Orioles are heating up, and man, for the A's, it's just not been great to say the least. And how do we take a look at a team in the Colorado Rockies who they won 3 straight games? They went from 3 road wins in their first 31 games to 3-0 in their last 3, but now they have the Mets coming to town, and you've got Antonio Senzatella, as I like to call him, the human pinata on the bump for Friday, and I think that order is going to be restored very quickly with this Colorado Rockies season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, is Kodai Senga going to, I believe, for the Mets? And, he's been great all season long. The Mets, I assume they'll be without Francisco Lindor the entire series. I believe he's day-to-day right now with a broken toe. So we'll see at what point he comes back, but I don't think they'll rush him whatsoever, playing the Rockies. Mets have been great this season. They've just struggled a bit more on the road, but my only worry would be a letdown in this first game after playing the Dodgers, but I really don't think they lose that series at all. And I would still bet them to win by multiple runs.
Yep, I think that's a very good look. And again, with Antonio Senzatella, 15.2 hits allowed per 9 innings. How this guy is allowed to grace an MLB mound, I have no idea. As John Bollman does great work with Baseball with Bowman, he's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I have to bring this up. Right now, we've got the Atlanta Braves as a road favorite against the San Francisco Giants. And we saw what happened on Thursday. There was 1 out in the top of the 9th inning. There was no man on base. They had a 6-run lead, and they somehow lost. How that happens, I have absolutely no idea, and I just have to think that that's absolutely taking the air out of your sails if you're a player on that team, and I don't understand why they're a favorite in this spot, especially with the Giants having such a good bullpen, and the Braves just had to recall Craig Kimbrell to their bullpen.
Oh, it's got to be tough. I mean, that is brutal to go through. I mean, especially, if that cross-country trip after that loss as well is just, if it were home, you can just go home and forget about it. But, having to fly across the country for that game has got to be brutal. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that ending is kind of more of a college baseball ending. You usually see that with those guys, walking the bases loaded and then, blowing that lead. You never see anything like that in Major League Baseball. So, I mean, the Braves have really struggled this year, especially more so on the road. I would just stay far away from them. If anything, I would have to fade them.
Yeah, I mean, man, when you're sending out there Craig Kimbrell in your bullpen, that things are not necessarily going well for you. And I don't know how you've taken a look at the Giants this year, but I just continue to like what I see out of them because Hayden Birdsong has become a nice starter for them. He was a long reliever in the bullpen. Now, I do have some question marks with Kyle Harrison and the starts that he's been able to give, but overall, I really think that the Giants are doing a solid job, and having a manager like Bob Melvin, I think, is a big asset for them.
Yeah, I mean, they got off to an amazing start this season. They've really slowed down the past, I'd say, month or so, month and a half, really. I still think they can be a good team. They just need more consistency. It seems like they play a couple good games in a row, then they have a dud in that third game, or, they lose, the first 2 games and they're not really great at coming back and avoiding the sweep in that game. That lineup is very inconsistent as well. Willie Adames is a big free agent signing, and he hasn't really gotten it going for them yet. Jung-Ho Lee he was off to an amazing start as well, but he's really cooled off in the middle of that lineup too. So I just need to see more consistency out of the Giants.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that they're going to be an intriguing team to watch, to say the least, as John Bollman, who does such great work over at Baseball with Bowman, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And we've got ourselves a lot of really good series this weekend, including it looks like it's going to be Tariq Skubal Day for the Detroit Tigers, as right now for the Detroit Tigers, they're going to be sending him to the bump against the Cubs with Ben Brown in some sort of capacity. I know that they utilized an opener from in his last start. That's why this game is off the board. But how do you take a look at a Tigers team that currently leads the American League in record? And I feel like a lot of people want to think that's fool's gold, but I think that this team is very much for real.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love the Tigers this year. I think they're built perfectly. It's not like a team that's built out of superstars, but they'll platoon you to death. They've got the perfect lefties to face right-handed pitching and the perfect lefties, or the perfect righties to face left-handed pitching and the perfect lefties to face right-handed pitching. They've got an unbelievable shutdown bullpen. They've got, that ace and Tarek Skubal at the top of the rotation. They've got some great supporting pitchers. Jackson Jobe was one of the top prospects in baseball. He's been pitching great this season. Casey Mize was a number 1 overall pick, and he hadn't really figured it out for, his first couple of years in the major leagues, but that's pretty common with starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. It's very hard to kind of get your footing. So he's obviously got the talent if he's going number 1 overall. So I really do think the Tigers are for real, and I think they'll keep it up. And, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish with the best record in baseball, or at least the AL.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's been very impressive. I do think that we're probably going to be seeing a little bit of a run with those National League teams to be able to give chase overall, but I do think that out there in the American League, they're very much set up for success, especially with the fact that the New York Yankees are dealing with some bullpen issues as well, with Luke Weaver being out of the fold. Now they're going to be facing off against the Red Sox over the weekend, and it's going to be Will Warren against Walker Buehler. How do you take a look at this series as a whole? Because the Yankees certainly have their bullpen issues, and for the Red Sox, they just have not been the same team without Alex Bregman.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an unreal series. I mean, the Red Sox have not been playing well whatsoever, especially this season. But we always see when these two teams face off, it usually sends the other team on a run. If the Red Sox dominated the Yankees last season, and if they're able to win this series, and I think they'll be able to take that momentum and go on a bit of a run. That being said, the team that usually loses these series, there's a little bit of a lull. So I think we'll see two teams battling it out. Yankees are definitely playing better right now, but like I said, the Red Sox-Yankees matchups, it doesn't matter how good you're playing, how good you are for that year. It always seems like we get close matchups. So I'm really excited to see which team, is able to win that series, because like I said, I think they'll be able to go on a run.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that this is going to be a big momentum shifter, whether that be to the positive or the negative with these two teams. And how do you take a look at what we are going to be getting on Friday as well with the guy Will Warren, that if you look at the fielding independent numbers, there should be some positivity. I don't necessarily love what I've seen out of him, even though he's a great strikeout guy. It does feel like when he misses bad. And for Walker Buehler, you can tell that he's not the same guy that he was a few seasons ago, but still, he's been able to show a few flashes this year of brilliance for the Red Sox.
Yeah, Will Warren, same idea. He's a great pitcher. He's going to be a great pitcher, but he's still a rookie. It's just more the consistency aspect. And, it's very common in these pitchers that, these rookies that haven't totally acclimated to the league yet. I think we'll see some dominant performances, but we won't necessarily see that consistency yet. And the Red Sox lineup, even without Alex Bregman, is definitely tough. That's still how they win games. And yeah, Walker Buehler definitely hasn't been the same, but it seems like he gets up for these types of games. So I'm excited to see how he pitches in his first Red Sox-Yankees rivalry.
Yeah, that is going to be a lot of fun, to say the least. And I always do think that when you get Yankees versus Red Sox, it's just theater in general. And have there been just a few things in general that you've been betting over the last few weeks that have been profitable for you? Because in my opinion, it's been a little bit of a hodgepodge of a season. And for me, what's been really surprising is typically when you reach like late May, early June, the overs start to heat up. And we certainly saw some high-scoring exposés over the last 48 or so hours. But it's been very much an underwhelming season thus far with regards to a totals perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I think this part of the season is really tough to kind of just go off, what you're seeing. Like you mentioned, I think you have to just ride certain teams. And, one of the things I've been doing is just fading the Athletics. I'm tired of trying to predict when something will happen, in the sense that I'm tired of trying to predict when the A's will stop losing. I think it's more of just like when they stop losing, when we lose a couple bets in a row, then we'll stop fading them. You look at a team like the Athletics and you're like, how does this team lose 20 of their last 22? That's insane. You would think at some point they'd figure it out, but it's kind of just like not trying to outsmart yourself and, just keep riding the trend until it shows that it's, stopping, and as opposed to, just stopping when you think it's going to stop.
Yep, I was doing that with the Colorado Rockies. Got burnt a little bit in that series against Miami, but still very much up for the season, being able to fade them. And is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at in terms of the card for Friday, whether that be a game that you're looking at or just a player or two that you think might be intriguing and might be able to give a good performance?
Yeah, there aren't too many odds out right now. And
yeah, it's a really weird board for Friday. A lot of these games are off the board, and I don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. I was, checking out DraftKings right before I came on. It seems like they're only odds for like 4 games. And usually when they, post odds a day ahead of time, you get a good amount of odds out. I didn't really love anything that was out. What stuck out to me was the Braves Giants. And what stuck out was I'm definitely not betting the Braves right now. So Maybe I'll take a look at the Giants because of that, as home dogs. But to be honest, not a ton that's out right now. So not much that I can speak on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's a very strange card for this Friday, so I'm glad that you brought that up. And certainly after what we saw on Thursday, the Atlanta Braves are a no-go for me. But what is a yes-go is always having a great chat with you, John. You do an amazing job being able to gauge this great sport of baseball and let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, for sure. It's at John Bollman 11 on X, and then at Baseball with Bollman on both Instagram and TikTok. But most of my content will always just be on X.
Absolutely, and Johnny does a tremendous job being able to gauge this great game that we all know and love about baseball, and every single time he joins me, he lends amazing insight. So big thanks to John for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and coming next, it is that time the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by our good friend in John Bollman. He does great work over at RotoWire, Baseball with Bollman, and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights and did so once again today. So big thanks to John for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_D1. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. And before I do get started, more games off the board on this card than I have seen all season long. So these pitchers are going to change. I always update the handicaps when we get a change in pitchers on the spreadsheet link that is attached in this podcast and on the old Twitter/X feed at gunit_D1. So keep note of that because it's probably going to happen quite a bit with regards to this card as we do get things started with 9:51 and 52 on the card. It is Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Another game that's off the board as Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his name for the Buccos. Right now it's to be determined for the Phillies. CBS Sports was projecting Taijuan Walker, but Taijuan Walker pitched an inning yesterday. So you're either getting a bullpen game or you're getting Ranger Suarez. And if you get Ranger Suarez, he's probably going to be about a -150 to a -155 favorite. That total would be hovering in the neighborhood about a 7.5 or less to the over and 8 or higher to the under. If you get a bullpen game for the Philadelphia Phillies and or one of these young gun guys, I'm probably looking at closer like a -125 to a -130, but this one is very, very TBD because they did not do us too much of a solid on this one, and for some reason they're not projecting Ranger Suarez as a starter, even though he'd be on normal rest, and I don't know who else would be able to start. Maybe you throw out there Joe Ross, a former starter, but yeah, that's relatively rough, and if you do get Ranger Suarez, it's been very rock solid, but it's hard to be able to go in too much on him, not knowing if he's going to be the starter or not. So, if it is Ranger Suarez, tremendous, and for Bailey Falter, 3.12 ERA with 3 runs to which weren't given up in his last 5 starts. I have no idea where this is coming from. He's only getting 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up 3 walks per 9. Now, what we do know is that this is going to be a Philadelphia Phillies lineup that has been rock solid all season long, and they're going to be lock loaded, ready for bear. You've got Bryce Harper coming off of getting the old beanball in the elbow. He had a home run in that series against the Blue Jays, and he's been able to give you a 370 on base. Kyle Schwarber continues to be amazing. He's right now giving you 19 bombs. He's hitting for north of a 385 on base, and then you do have a few guys out there in the outfield, Brandon Marsh, Max Kepler, that have had rough seasons, but a lot of guys are moving the line. Trey Turner, 7 home runs this season. He's hitting at 300. Nick Castellanos is sitting at 285. Alec Boehm is sitting at 275 again. So these guys are doing a nice job moving the line. But if you have to go with some sort of bullpen game for the Philadelphia Phillies, they're a bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen areas. You got Jose Alvarado, who is suspended for using weight loss supplements, so that's not great. Jordan Romano has a 70 ERA. Tanner Banks has not been amazing. Orion Kerkering has actually been probably your best reliever. He's been providing an ERA hovering right around 3. Matt Strom has been having a little bit of a rough go of it. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is another team that ranks in the bottom 10 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. Colin Holderman was not able to Holderman it down, so that's been an issue. David Bennar has been pooping the Bennar north of a 4 ERA. Ryan Barucki has been able to give you some okay innings, but he's back up to a north of 4.5 ERA. And this is the lineup of the Pittsburgh Pirates that is currently in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They've been a little bit better over the last few weeks, so credit to them. Andrew McCutchen, 350 on base. He's been able to give you some some good consistency at the plate. And O'Neill Cruz, 12 bombs, 353 on base. But other than McCutchen and Cruz, you've only got one other player with north of 3 home runs on the roster. And yeah, it's June. Brian Reynolds, 7 home runs, and he's had his struggles all season long. And I want to talk about struggles. You've got the likes of Tommy Pham, Emmanuel Valdez, Jared Trollo, Andy Rodriguez, a whole bunch of guys in 215 or lower. They've been trying to mix and match in the bottom lineup. None of these guys have been able to come through. Credit to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He's been able to 300 thus far this season, but he's out with injuries all season long, and he doesn't really give you a lot of hard contact / power. So it's an interesting circumstance here. Like I said, bullpen game of the Philadelphia Phillies, probably even closer to minus 120 there on the Phillies, and that would be a total to where an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. And if you do indeed get Mr. Rangers Suarez, I'd be setting that money line probably closer to about a minus 150 or so. And then with regards to that total, I'd be looking at a 7.5 or less to the over, at 8 or higher to the under, but very much wait and see there because we don't know what we're getting out of the Phillies. 953, 954 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks hit the road. They're facing off against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. It's on to Nick Lodolo getting a start for them. Right now, this is listed as TBD for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but it's looking like it's going to be one Eduardo Rodriguez coming off the injury list. And if you do get Eduardo Rodriguez coming off the injury list, I'll be setting the Reds at a minus 145 on the money line. Would be willing to lay up to minus 144 there, plus 146 or higher. Looking at the 6 and the 9 or less, looking at the over, 9.5 or higher, the under now. Ultimate confidence booster for the Arizona Diamondbacks coming off of the game yesterday where you're down 6 runs in the 9th inning and somehow, someway, the Atlanta Braves upchuck defeat from the jaws of victory. I don't quite know how that happened, but it did. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, if he is coming off the injury list to make this start, he has not been good this year. 7.05 ERA. Now it's a 4.28 fielding advantage. He's getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's given up north of 3 walks per 9 innings. This would be his first start since the middle of May 14th, so it would be his first start in about 3.5 or so weeks, so very much less than savory there. And on the flip side for Nick Lodolo, his strikeout stuff is way down, but the walks are way down as well, as he's only been able to generate about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, 3.10 ERA, 3.61 fielding advantage. It's been steady all season long. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer, and I believe all but one of his starts thus far this season, and he's backed up by a bullpen that you're neither here nor there on. They're about a league average team with regards to that bullpen ERA. You've had Lyon Richardson be able to step up. He's been able to supply you with a sub-2 ERA. Taylor Rogers has been able to give you a sub-350 ERA as well. But you do have some of these guys, like I'm looking at you, Graham Ashcraft, in long relief that have not necessarily been too amazing. Now Tony Santillan has been able to do a pretty rock-solid job for the team and for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Not like this bullpen has been great themselves. They are getting some good news with Kendall Graveman coming off the injury list. He's been solid since coming off of there. Jalen Beeks along Shelby Miller, a pair of long guys, giving you a sub-355 ERA. And Justin Martinez gives you a few okay innings as well. And then for this Diamondbacks lineup, you've got Josh Naylor's right now dealing with a little bit of ailment, so something that you do want to be taking note of. Overall for the season, a guy that's hitting for about a 290, but and Eugenio Suarez along Corbin Carroll, a combined 34 home runs between these two guys. Suarez hitting about a 230, Carroll more around a 340 with regards to on base and a double-figure amount of stolen bases, but you've just got a plethora of different guys that are hitting for you. You got Geraldo Perdomo giving you a 375 on base, Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 11 home runs and less than 130 at bats, north of a 400 on base out of him. Gabriel Moreno's moving the line, and then on the flip side, you just don't know if you're going to be able to get out of the Cincinnati Reds lineup, as Elly De La Cruz has been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs, and obviously he's going to steal his bags, but you do have a pair of guys in TJ Friedel, like Gavin Lux, both supplying with about a 380 on base, but Matt McClain is hitting a $175. You've had Jake Fraley come up very frail this season. Jameer Candelario has been out for quite some time, and when he was in the lineup, he was not so great. Austin Hayes has been dealing with injuries all season long, because when he's been out there, he's been hitting at 300, but him deal with the ailment, that's not necessarily so tremendous. So Santiago Espino has been able to give you some good at-bats as well, but 0 home runs this season. So interesting little circumstance here. I do think that for Cincinnati, they do get to Eduardo Rodriguez if he does make this start, and I mean, if it's like a bullpen game for the Diamondbacks, honestly, that might be a little bit of an upgrade. Minus 144 or better, looking at the Reds, plus 146 or higher, looking at the Snakes, and then 9 or less. I'm in on the over 9.5 or higher, the under 955, 956 on the card. You've got the Milwaukee Brewers playing us to the Slam Diego Padres, as Randy Vasquez is going to be on the bum for the Padres, and it is Chad Patrick on the bum for the Brewers. Right now, I'm seeing an initial opener of FanDuel at minus 148 with the Brewers, plus 126 on the Padres, and then 8.5 is the total. The over is even money, and the under is minus 120, and for the Brewers, set them on the money line at a minus 139. If FanDuel has a minus 146, when it's all said and done, I should probably be able to get in on like a minus 135, minus 138, something like that. So I should be able to play the Brew Crew on the money line, as Chad Patrick has just been very rock solid for this team, as Mr. Patrick has come up from the minor league level, and in the role of a starter, he's been able to supply a sub-3 ERA. Now, I will say he's pitching to a little bit of more contact than what you'd like, only about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he keeps the ball in the yard, 0.7 home runs per 9, 2.5 walks per 9, so he's been as steady as they come, and he's on a really good run right now. 3 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 5 starts, a combined 3 runs given up in his last 3 starts, and Randy Vasquez, I just feel like the air is going to be going out of the balloon for him as he's getting darn near as many strikeouts as walks this season. A 3.99 ERA, 5.34 fielding dependent, 4.6 walks, 5.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, coming off of going 3 1/3 innings and giving up 4 runs at his last start at home against a poopy Pittsburgh Pirates, so that's a little bit less than tremendous. Now, the good news for the Padres is that they do back him up with one of the best bullpens you're going to find in the big leagues, as they're in the top 10 with that regard. You got Jason Adam, who's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA, Yuki Matsui, Adori Motohone, have been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA, Jeremiah Estrada has been rock solid, Robert Suarez is a good closer, and for the Brewers, it's been mix and match in this bullpen. They're currently in the bottom 10 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA, and they need these guys to hold down the fort because Brandon Woodruff, it looks like, had another setback, so that's not great. Meanwhile, you've got Trevor McGill, Nick Mears in the bullpen, give you a sub-255 ERA, being able to get Rob Zanoski to be able to give you the innings that he has. Ben rock solid has yet to give up an earned run and long relief, and Abner Uribe, a sub-2 ERA, but Elvis Piero, Yo Payams have been big giant disappointments this year. Tyler Alexander is nothing to write home about, so you do have your issues there. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, this is a lineup that has quite a few guys that are able to swipe some bags, a quartet of different guys with at least 10 stolen bases. Christian Yelich, Jackson Trio, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, and for Frelick along with Terang, both give you north of 350 on base. Yelich not necessarily for a ton of average, but it's up to 13 home runs, so he's starting to break through there. Jackson Trio, 10 bombs himself, he's hitting at 260, he doesn't draw any walks, but you do have your issues with the middle infield as you've got the likes of a Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz hitting below a 220, though Durbin seems to be coming along a little bit. Reese Hoskins at 360 on base, he's up to 9 bombs. Willie Contreras is moving the line as well, and then for the San Diego Padres, you've really got 2 main sources of power this season. Fernando Tatis Jr. along Gavin Sheets, these 2 guys have been able to combine for 24 home runs this season, and both of these guys have been able to hit for in that neighborhood about a 263 to a 273. Manny Machado sitting above 300, but down with his power at about 7 home runs. Jackson Merrill's been moving the line, but not necessarily supplying the deep ball, about a 360 on base out of him. Jake Cronenworth, about a 380 on base. He's been solid since coming off the injury list, but Xander Bogaerts just not really living up to that contract. 3 home runs, hitting at 240, and Luis Arias obviously is good for being able to get on base as well. So in this sort of circumstance, I did sell my total at 8.6. We get that 8.5. I like the over end with the Brewers willing to go up to a minus 138 on that money line. 957, 958 on the betting board. It's the LA Dodgers, and they hit the road they're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. We do know that for the Cardinals, it's going to be sunny gray, and right now it's old TBD on the bump for the LA Dodgers, so this is another game that's off the board, and right now CBS Sports is projecting Ben Casparis, who is able to be a relatively functional bulk guy, but you have to figure that there's going to be a lot of bullpen usage for the Dodgers, and as a result, I set the Dodgers at a minus 123 on the money line. Willing to lay up to minus 122 with them, plus 124 higher, looking at the cards, and then set my total at 8.4, 8 or less. I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. You do have to figure that Casparis is going to be getting quite a few innings in this one. You did have the Dodgers have to dive into that bullpen quite a bit yesterday, so they're going to need him to probably eat a little bit. As for this LA Dodgers bullpen, it has been very brutal for them as they had to utilize Jack Dreyer yesterday. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA as a long guy in that bullpen. They're still dealing with the injuries to the likes of Kirby Yates. They've been having Michael Kopech out of the fold for the entirety of the season, Blake Tryon, so they are trying to mix and match there. And if you do indeed get Casparis, his swing and miss stuff has been pretty good. A sub-260 ERA, he's been able to supply you with about 10 strikeouts for 9 innings. It's allowed just 1 home run in 39 innings this season. Now, he did pitch on Tuesday, so he was able to get off on Wednesday and Thursday, so should be able to give you like 3-4 solid innings here. And what is solid for the LA Dodgers is this lineup. A bunch that is in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and there's this guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani who's been able to give you 23 home runs and north of a 380 on base. Freddie Freeman, along with Will Smith, are getting jiggy with it, north of a 420 on base. Kike Hernandez has been able to supply a little bit of power. Mookie Betts, fresh off of injury, he hasn't been himself this year, 333 on base, but you know that he's going to be able to find it. Andy Paz has been able to give you 12 home runs this season. He's been able to hitting darn near 300, but do have Michael Conforto ending below the Bedell sign 200. Shout out to Max Muncy for starting to be able to find it a little bit more as well. And then on the St. Louis Cardinals side of things, you've got just not a lot of power in general, but you've got a lot of guys who are moving the line, like Brandon Donovan has been able to hit well above a 300 for this unit, and then you've been able to get some good production out of Lars Nootbaar right now, leading the way with 8 home runs, 350 on base. Mason Wynn is giving you a 350 on base. Alec Burleson, 340 on base. So these guys are doing a pretty rock solid job. You got Pedro Baez along with Jordan Walker, needing to give you a little bit more. These two guys hitting for about a 215, and then you got Wilson Contreras, who's been able to give you about a 325 on base. But that said, for the St. Louis Cardinals, it's about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. They did have their woes yesterday, and they certainly had to utilize a lot of bullpen pieces, so they're going to need Sonny Gray to go deep in this one, as you've got the likes of a Kyle Leahy, Phil Matone, who will be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Ryan Helsley has been a little bit up and down, but I still believe that he's an amazing closer. He and Jojo Romero have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, and for Sonny Gray, it's been a little bit up and down for him thus far this season. The strikeout stuff is there. He's getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 365 ERA, a fielding dependent that's very in lockstep with that, and he's been much better at home this season. 323 home ERA. At home, he's only giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and when he's been at home, he's been only giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings as well. So this is a circumstance where I do think that the Dodgers are going to be able to get to him a little bit and then get in that bullpen 8 or less, looking at the over 8.5 for higher. The under, and for the Dodgers, want to lay up to a minus 122 on that money line, plus 120 for higher in on the cards. 959, 960 on the betting board. Finally, a game with numbers. The Mets are on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Antonio Senzatella is on the bump for the Colorado Rockies. Kodai Senga goes for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves between minus 310 to minus 335 favorites. Plus 250, plus 260 is that number on our good friends the Rockies. 10 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And if you're looking to lay run half with the New York Mets at FanDuel, the opener is minus 205. I set mine as minus 222. Now, shout out to the Rockies for 3 straight wins over the Miami Marlins. They got swept by the Mets when they played them last week. There's no reason to think otherwise, especially with the human pinata himself, Antonio Senzatella, on the bump. 15.2 hits allowed per 9 innings. 15.2! Like, how? How is this possible? How is this guy allowed to go out there on a big league mound? Come on! Like, no! This is just absolutely terrible. And you've got Kodai Senga on the flip side, who's doing for a little bit of regression. Right now, he's posting up $1 a year, right? 320 fielding independent. He's been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, and his strikeout stuff is down, about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And at elevation, the Colorado Rockies should be able to generate a few runs. The Colorado Rockies by far dead last in the big leagues with regards to runs per game away from home, but at home, you're able to get a little bit more. And Hunter Goodman has been rock solid for the team. He's been able to give you 9+ home runs this season. I will say this for the Rockies: the bullpen is not the world's worst. You've actually had a few guys be able to step up. Zach Alganos has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jimmy Harrigan has shown his worth this season. You've got Victor Vodnik coming off the injured list. So the guys actually following Antonio Senzatella aren't necessarily terrible. But for Antonio Senzatella, again, a human pinata is the best way of describing him. And for the Colorado Rockies, with regards to this lineup, they obviously get much better when they're at home rather than when they are away from home, as you've been able to have a little bit of production out of Brenton Doyle at home. At home, 4 home runs, about a 300 on base. Jordan Beck at home has been able to hit about a 290. You've also got Ryan McMahon hitting north of a 270. At home, on the road, this is just absolutely terrible. And for the New York Mets, they should be able to bang the tar out of this team, as you've had Juan Soto be able to give you a trio of homers over the last 7 days. He's starting to finally be able to find it. Still give you about a 360 on base. Brandon Nimmo's up to 10 home runs. And Pete Alonso, over the last 2 games, he's been able to give you 3 home runs, about a 390 on base. So he's on a hot streak. You've been able to have some good production on Francisco Lindor, who's out of the lineup yesterday. I have to figure that he's going to be back for this game here. And for the Mets, this is a top 5 team with regards to their bullpen ERA as well. They did have to utilize quite a few pieces yesterday in that start, but you know what? You've been able to get quite a bit out of a guy like an Oscar Barzobin, who's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Jose Castillo's actually been able to give you some functional innings, still rocking north of 5 ERA, but things are rounding into form for him. Jose Vito has been a little bit hit or miss, but Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, sub-3 ERAs in the back end. I do think that they go out there, dominate against a guy in Antonio Senzatella that bad. It's just not great to say the least. I am going to be in on the over. I set my total at 10.8. And for the Mets, willing to go up to a minus 222 on that run line. 961, 962 on the card. You've got the Atlanta Braves on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Hayden Birdsong is going to be on the bump for the Bravos, and Spencer Schwellenbach is on the bump for Atlanta. And Atlanta find themselves as pretty good-sized road favorites. You're going to be finding them between minus 129 to a minus 136, and between plus 110 to a plus 120 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. I set the Giants at a minus 114 here. I'm going to be willing to back the money line for the Braves. They had a really tough stretch where they had that long rain delay on Wednesday. They had to play early on Thursday, so their body clocks are just all sorts of messed up at this point. And for Schwellenbach, he's been able to do a really good job for the team, but what are you going to be able to get after him? As for Mr. Spencer Schwellenbach, a 3.13 ERA, the only been more around to 3.30. Swinging mid stuff has been a little bit down from where it was last year, but it's picking back up. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he does a good job keeping the ball in the yard, right around about 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5, but Man, it's so bad for the Atlanta Braves that they're bringing Craig Kimbrell back for their bullpen. That's all that needs to be said right there. They're bringing in Craig frickin' Kimbrell into their bullpen. So, yeah, that's not great to say the least. I mean, you've had Pierce Johnson actually be pretty rock solid along Dylan Lee. These two guys have been able to give you a sub-3.35 ERA. Angel De Los Santos has been able to supply for the team a sub-3 ERA as well. But, I mean, Rossiel Iglesias, this guy is just completely lost. Aaron Bummer has been all over the place. And Desmond Hernandez is right now dealing with a little bit of an injury as well. Now, for the Atlanta Braves, obviously, this is a much more fearsome lineup with Ronald Acuna Jr. back. He's already up to 4 bombs. He's been able to give you a 4 on base ever since he has come off of the injured list. And you've got Matt Olson, who's been able to give you 12 home runs. Not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest average, but you know what? He's supplying that power. You've been able to have a bit of production out of Austin Riley as well. 11 home runs, about a 330 on base. Now, Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris are both hitting in that neighborhood about a 230, 235 without a lot of power. So that's been a little bit of an issue for the team. And we've seen regression with Eli White, Nick Allen at the bottom of the lineup. But I do think that for the San Francisco Giants, where the big edge is, I mentioned it, the bullpen. You've got yourself a team in the Atlanta Braves that has to sign Craig Kimbrell. Meanwhile, the Giants, they are number 1 in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. They were able to get some nice length out of Robbie Ray yesterday. And you've got these guys like Tyler Rogers, Eric Miller, Camilo Duvall, Randy Rodriguez. I'll give you a sub-250 ERA. Ryan Walker has been a little bit suspect, and don't want to see Jordan Hicks, but that's those guys. It's been pretty solid. And Hayden Birdsong, he's got a 237 ERA. So it's coming into the starting rotation. He's made 3 starts. He's given up a combined 4 earned runs. He was a starter by trade last season, so he's giving you good length. Went north of 5 innings. His last start against the Miami Marlins. Again, it's against the Miami Marlins, but overall, he's been able to do a rock solid job here, not giving up overly many walks, fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings. So I like what I'm seeing on that front out of him, and I do think that he does a rock solid job in this start against the Atlanta Braves, a Braves team that's just dealing with it big time. So I did set the Giants at a minus 114. I like them on the money line. I did set my total at a 7.2. I do think that the bullpen for the Braves going to be a little bit better here, so at the 7.5, I'm in on the under. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Boston Red Sox. They're going to be on the road against the New York Yankees, as you've got Will Warren on the bump for the Yankees, and Walker Buehler goes for the Red Sox. Red Sox are a plus 144 underdog on the initial FanDuel opener, minus 172 on the Yankees, and the on game is 9. The over is minus 105, and the under is minus 115. And if you do indeed get these numbers at a plus 146, I'd be willing to dive in on the Red Sox. When you get those dime lines, if this is in fact what we're going to be getting, I should be able to get close to a plus 150, and that would put me in on Boston. For Walker Buehler, has he been the Walker Buehler that we all know and love from like 3 to 4 years ago? No, but at the same time, he's been functional. He's got a 4.44 ERA, fielding independent, more around about a 4.72, as he's getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now he has given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That's a little bit less than savory, to say the least. But that said, I do think that he's going to be able to round into form and do a nice job of holding down the fort. And for Will Warren, I just always have my question marks with him. He always just feels like he's a ticking time bomb for giving up a whole bunch of runs. 5.19 ERA. Now, the fielding independent is actually a 3.11. He's only given up 1 home run per 9 innings this season, and the swing and miss stuff is very supreme. He's been able to give you about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, actually closer to 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he just got completely lit ablaze by the LA Dodgers, got 4 outs and gave up 7 runs. Prior to that, he had 4 straight starts in which he gave up 2 runs or fewer, but that was against the Athletics, the Seattle Mariners on the road, so in Seattle, the Texas Rangers, and the Colorado Rockies. So I do think that that was a little bit of flash in the pan, and for the New York Yankees, this is a bullpen that was very reliant upon Luke Weaver being able to close out games. Now they have to go back to Devin Williams, and for those of you that took the run line a few days ago with the Yankees against the Cleveland Guardians, you know that Mr. Devin Williams not necessarily so reliable right now, and you've been able to have Yuri De Los Santos be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. He's been able to do a nice job. Ian Hamilton has been highly suspect, though. He's given up north of a 4 ERA. He's been up, down, all around. Jonathan Loaizaga coming off the injured list is pretty rock solid, but it's clear that he's trying to figure things out. Now you have a Yankees lineup that is number 1 in the American League in terms of runs per game. Aaron Judge, 21 bombs, worth of 400 on base, 480 on base. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. For Paul Goldschmidt, he's down with his power, but he still gives you 380 on base. And then got a lot of guys like Cody Bellinger, Ben Rice, who are doing a nice job supplying power and both hitting about a 250. Rice up to 12 bombs. Trent Grisham, he's up to 13 home runs. Lawson Wells is starting to give you some power, though he's not really hitting for a lot of average. And now you've got Jazz Chisholm coming off the injured list as well. And then on the flip side for the Boston Red Sox, obviously without Alex Bregman, it's been a little bit rough, but they did bust out in that previous series against the LA Angels, where the LA Angels are just giving up runs upon runs. But that's it. You got Rafael Devers, Vladimir Abreu, a combined 25 home runs. In the case of Devers, a 400 on base. Abreu is hitting about a 250. Zidane Rafael, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to round into form. .250 average. His slugging percentage is way up over the last few days, but I think that's Christian Campbell. He's been going through a little bit of a rookie funk. He's now hitting about a .222. It's not been great out there in the field. Carlos Narvaez at the catcher spot has been pretty rock solid, and Jarren Duran is starting to be able to move the line as well. I do like this Red Sox bullpen, actually. Now, Ronald Chapman is always a little bit of a roll of the dice, but he and also Brandon Bernardino, they've been able to be pretty rock solid recently. These guys give you a sub-2 ERA. Greg Weiser, Gilbert Whitlock are able to give you a little bit of length out of that bullpen as well, especially Whitlock from a length perspective. Both of these guys, a sub-350 ERA. Now, you have to wonder what you're going to be able to get out of some of these more ancillary guys with Liam Hendricks currently on the injured list, or look at the guys like Cooper Kurzweil, Zach Kelly and company for some innings. But that said, I do think that if you could get a solid price on the Red Sox, like a plus 147 or higher, worth it. I'd be willing to take that on the money line, and I did set my total at a 9.2, so at a 9 or less, I'm going to be in on the over. 965, 966 on the betting board. The Astros are on the road facing up against the Cleveland Guardians, as Colton Gordon is on the bump for the Astros, and Logan Allen is on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians. And with the Guardians, you can only find their initial opener over at FanDuel, and they're minus 118. Even money is that number on the Astros. 8.5 is the total. The over is plus 105. The under is minus 125. And I did sell my total at an 8.2. So at the 8.5, I'd be looking at the under. If we get an 8, though, that would be my buy point on the over. As for Logan Allen, he's been able to do a pretty rock solid job, and I would be willing to back him on the money line here. I did set Logan Allen and the Guardians at a minus 124. 4.22 ERA. Last year, he was just getting banged around with the deep ball, giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. That's down to about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. The swing and miss stuff is not there. 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he does need to cut down on those walks, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. But that said, he's been able to do a nice job holding down the fort recently, giving up a combined 6 earned runs over the course of his last 4 starts. So a little bit of credit where it is due. And for Logan Allen, he has just been such a better pitcher when he's been in Cleveland this year rather than on the road. As you take a look at what he's been able to do when he's been in Cleveland, and he's looked like a pretty good stud pitcher. A 3.94 ERA. He's only given up 1 home run in his first 4 total appearances at home. On the road, he has been giving up more around about a home run per 9 innings. Meanwhile, on the flip side, you do have yourself a guy in Colton Gordon that I think that he's better than what his raw numbers would indicate, as he got little blaze once again in his last start, as he's currently rocking a 5.95 ERA, but in his 4 starts, he has been able to give you 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up about 1.5 walks per 9 now. He has given up 4 home runs in those first 4 starts, but overall, I do think that he's got some good stuff. He's going to be able to round in a little bit of form, and for the Astros, I do think that the offense is going to start to round into form a little bit more as well. This has been a bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but you do have Isaac Paredes, who's been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs. He's been able to give you north of a 350 on base. Jose Altuve, after a rough start to the season, he and Jeremy Pena are up to 9 home runs, and Pena is sitting above a 300. You've had Jake Myers move the line, give you about a 350 on base. Cam Smith, after a rough start to the season, he's giving you a bit more of something as well. Yanier Diaz and his 272 on base. I mean, that's not great. And Christian Walker right around about a 270 on base as well. So these guys need to clean it up, but the Astros are a top 10 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've had Brian King start to poop the bed a little bit for you, but still supplying a sub 325 ERA. And then you got the likes of Steven Oker, Bennett Sosa, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader, who've all been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. And on the flip side, you've got yourself a Cleveland Guardians team that's out about league average with regards to their bullpen ERA. I mean, Clase just has not been himself this season. You've had Hunter Gaddis be really good in the bullpen with about a 1 ERA, but that's Kate Smith has been a little bit up and down all around for the team, although his strikeout stuff has been absolutely tremendous. He's giving you about a 273 ERA, and then you've had Joey Cantillo be able to give you some relatively okay innings as well. And for this Cleveland Guardians lineup, the big thing that I have with them is that they are very top heavy. Jose Ramirez, 11 home runs, hitting for nearly 325 has been amazing. Stephen Kwan, he's been able to do a nice job moving the line, hitting above 300. Carlos Santana's up to a 360 on base, but these guys at the bottom of the fold, they've had to mix and match with likes of a Austin Hedges, a backup catcher, Bo Naylor, along John Kensey Noel, only below the middle sign 200. Brian Rocchio had to be sent to the minor league level, and even Kyle Manzardo, 11 home runs, but he's only hitting a 210 for this team, so it is an interesting circumstance here. Now, I do think that for the Cleveland Guardians, they go out there, they're going to be able to get the job done. I actually set them on the money line at a minus 139, so I'm going to be willing to dive in on the Guardians, and at an 8 or less, I'd be in on the over 8.5 or higher, the under 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Kansas City Royals. They're on the road against the Chicago White Sox, as Davis Martin is on the bump for the Southsiders, and Seth Lugo is on the bump for the Royals. Royals are between minus 165 to a minus 178 favorites, anywhere between plus 145 to a plus 155. That number on the Southsiders. 8 is the total. The over is between minus 115 to a minus 120. Under is anywhere between even even a -105. And for the Royals, set them on the money line at a -193 right now, only seeing the opener on FanDuel. With regards to that run line, that's a -110, and I'd be willing to lay it. Wouldn't want to go past it, set mine at a -112, but do like that run line. For Seth Lugo, he has been pitching quite a bit of contact. He's getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and the fielding independent is a little bit alarming. You saw that with him last season as well, as he was carrying a low ERA because he was inducing so much soft contact, and he's been giving up quite a bit more of the deep ball this season, giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but he is now going up against the Chicago White Sox team that they don't have a lot of guys that are taking your yard. You've got Miguel Vargas, who's been able to do a nice job, be able to supply this team with 8 home runs as far as the season. And for the White Sox, they average fewer than 3 runs per game away from home, closer to 4 runs per game at home, so they've been a little bit better out there in Chicago, but Luis Roberto's been terrible. He's sitting at $177 this year. Now he's giving you 20 plus stolen bases, but problem is he's not getting on base very often. Lennon Sosa's sitting at 275, and you've had Chase Meredith actually hit for north of 300, so credit to him, but these guys like Joshua Palacios, Brooks Baldwin, when he's been out there, Josh Rojas, these guys hitting at 215 or lower rough. Now you're getting back Mike Tauchman. He's only playing like 15 games this season, north of 4 on base, and Andrew Benintendi has been solid, but for the Chicago White Sox, this bullpen is also a bottom 8 unit in terms of their ERA. Mike Vasil has been a really good long guy, but they had to use him for a big bulk appearance, I believe, on Wednesday. Steven Wilson, he's been able to supply you with a sub-2 ERA as well, but Jordan Leisure, Cam Bouger, Brandon Iser, Caleb Freeman, so many guys are giving you north of a 450 ERA, and for the Royals, it has been an offense that's been very rough themselves. They're in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Vinny Pasquantino has been able to give you 8 home runs. It's now hitting at 250, but I mean, for Bobby Witt Jr., for a normal player standards, it's fine. He's hitting for about a 350 on base, 7 home runs. You just expect a little bit more out of him. He is giving you 20 plus stolen bases, but you've had a lot of guys that just have not been able to move the line for you, like Michael Massey is hitting for a 225 on base. Hunter Renfroe has been a disappointment this year. When Mark Canna's been out there, he's been okay, but he's been in and out of the lineup all season long. Kyle Isbell, Drew Waters are both hitting above a 270, but just not a lot of pop with this team. Out of Pasquantino and Witt, a combined 15 home runs. Nobody else is giving you north of 5 home runs. It's Salvador Perez. I mean, he's hitting for 4 home runs with about a 230 average and not walking a lot. That's an issue, but what you do have for this Royals team is a very, very good bullpen. How about this team being a top 6 team with regards to bullpen area, with Steven Cruz being able to supply a sub-2 ERA, Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursage, Daniel Lynch, all sub-225 ERA. Anel Zerpa has been a little bit rough for this team, but I mean, past that, these guys have been able to do a nice job of being able to lock it down, and I do think that for Seth Lugo, he's going to give you a good start, and Davis Martin has been relatively okay as well. Now, he's another one of these guys that's not going to give you a lot of swings and misses, but for Davis Martin, has done a nice job in terms of command, giving up fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, and he's been relatively okay in terms of being able to hold the ball in the yard, giving up about 1.1 to 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. His fielding appearance more around a 446 compared to a 367 ERA, but it's now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. So, circumstance where I'm going to be willing to lay up to a -112 with this Royals run line, and I did set my total at a 7.8, so I'm going to be willing to dive in on this 800, 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're going to be hitting the road. They're going to be facing off against the Minnesota Twins. Bailey Ober is on the bump for the Twins. It's old undecided on the bump for Toronto, so this is a game that's presently off the board. Currently, I have on the board Eric Lauer / a bullpen game for the Blue Jays, so I set this to where I'd be willing to lay up to a -158 on the Twins money line, plus 160 or higher. Wanted to take a shot on the Blue Jays, and then did set my total at an 8.7. So an 8.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, and a 9 or higher, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. If you do get Eric Lauer, he's actually been pretty good in relief. He's been able to give this team a sub-3 ERA, so he's been able to do a nice job there. I still remember with the Milwaukee Brewers like 3 years ago, he was really able to find it, and then he went straight down the toilet bowl for Lauer. Not necessarily great swing and miss stuff, but solid swing and miss stuff. He typically does a good job in terms of his command as well, but again, you're probably going to get like 3, maybe 4 innings out of him, and then you have to turn it over to a bullpen that has been dealing with a few ailments. Yimi Garcia right now dealing with an injury for the Toronto Blue Jays. That's not necessarily so savory. You have to think that you're going to be getting quite a bit out of someone like a Yariel Rodriguez, who's able to give you like 2 or 3 innings. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA as well, and then you've had Brandon Little come up very big for the team. He's been able to fly a sub-2 ERA, but Jeff Hoffman has been a disaster north of a 5 ERA. Mason Fluharty has been pretty solid, and DFA to Mr. Jose Arena, but the big issue that you do have for the Blue Jays, not a lot of power. You've got a quartet of different guys with approximately 8 home runs. Dylan Varsho, who missed north of 35 games this season, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., and George Springer. Now, to the credit, most of these guys are moving the line. Bo Bichette is sitting at 280. 280, Guerrero Jr., and George Springer north of a 265 on base, and Dalton Varsho 240 on base. That's not great, to say the least, but you've got Anthony Santander has been a big giant disappointment, hitting below the nose line with 6 home runs, and he's been injured. Addison Barger, he's been able to give you 6 home runs. He's hitting at 270. Ernie Clement is hitting at 280. So you've got these guys, Alejandro Kirk hitting above a 300. You've got these guys moving the line, but not a lot of power out there. Well, on the flip side, for the Minnesota Twins, this bullpen has been supreme. A top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA. Danny Klum has yet to give up an earned run this season, but unfortunately, he's been on the injured list the last few weeks. You've got Louis Varland, along with the closer in Yohan Duran, Justin Dopa, all being able to give you a sub-275 ERA. Cole Sands, Brock and Roll Stewart have been able to give you an ERA that's hovering right around 3. Now, for the Twins, not necessarily a ton of power themselves. Byron Buxton has been able to give you 10 home runs this season, hitting for about a 270. Trevor Larnach, 9 bombs, about a 330 on base out of him as well. And then Ty France is able to hit a 275. Harrison Bader has been able to give you about a 360 on base as well. And Royce Lewis has just been an abject disaster since he returned for this team. Like, he's hitting below a $150. This is just not the guy that we all know and love. And getting back Wallner is big. He's able to do a nice job, be able to get on base. And I do think that with Bailey Ober, you're going to be able to get his best stuff because he's at home. For Bailey Ober, he's supplying a sub-235 ERA at home, north of a 430 ERA when he's at away from home. Overall, 348 ERA. Only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it's holding the ball in the yard, giving up about 1 home run and 2 walks per 9 innings. It has really rounded it for him, giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, giving up approximately 3 runs in 1 of those. So I did some I told to where an 8.5 or less, I'd like the over 9 or higher, the under. I do think that for the Blue Jays, they do get a little bit of blaze here, and for the Twins, willing to lay up to a minus 158 on that money line, plus 160 or higher, looking at the Jays. 971, 972 on the betting board. You've got the Seattle Mariners on the road against the LA Angels, as the Professor Kyle Hendricks is on the bump for the Halos. Bryce Miller is on the bump for Seattle, and Seattle does find themselves as a pretty nice size favorite. You're going to be getting them between minus 138 to minus 148, plus 122 to a plus 128 is that number on Los Angeles. 9 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I am going to be willing to take a shot on this total over. I did set my total at a 9.3, and for the Seattle Mariners, I did set them on the money line at a minus 133. If we can get a little bit more of a plus number on the Angels, I would be willing to take a shot there, because with Bryce Miller, he just has not been himself thus far this season. And if you are looking at the run line prices, as right now, again, the only one that I'm seeing is over there at FanDuel, you're able to get plus 114 on Seattle. You have to play minus 137 to get a run half with the LA Angels. But I mean, if things normalize, if I could get like a minus 120-ish on the Angels to be able to get a run half, that might not be the world's worst look. I would need at least plus 125 to take a shot on that Mariners run line. So I'll probably be looking at that in some form or capacity. But that said, with Seattle, it's been an offense that has been actually very good on the road, with big dumper Cal Raleigh, north of 22 home runs, give you north of 370 on base. Already Polanco has fallen back to earth, but he and Udi Rodriguez have both been able to give you double-figure amount of homers. You look at this Seattle lineup, and they have been a top 8 team with regards to runs per game away from home with about 4.9, and J.P. Crawford is doing a nice job move line. He's been able to give you north of a 370 on base. Dylan Moore has been able to give you a bit of production as well. And then for the bullpen of the Seattle Mariners team, Andres Munoz has been absolutely amazing. He's been able to supply you with a sub-2 ERA. Matt Brash, since coming off the injury list, really hasn't given up a single run. Colin Sider was an issue, but Gabe Spire being able to give you sub-250 ERA, they're starting around in a form, in my opinion. Carlos Vargas has been solid, and for the LA Angels, anything but solid for this bullpen, a bottom 3 team with regards to ERA. Now, they brought in a few different guys to be able to mix and match with. Robert Stevenson is one of them, but he's landed back on the injury list. You're now relying upon some of these old reliable guys, and I utilize the word reliable very, very loosely, because, well, when you're talking about someone like Hunter Strickland, you don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him, but you've been able to get a bit of production out of a guy in Jack Eater, who's been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. You've got, though, Brock and Roberg, Ryan Zephyrian, along with Hector Neris, who are all supplying an ERA that's hovering right in that neighborhood about like a 5, so that's not great, to say the least. And when it comes to the Professor Kyle Hendricks, he's never been a good swing and miss guy, about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and it's just really been getting little blades this season. And he's giving up north of 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. The walks are up now, a little bit better with his command over the last few starts, and at home he's been much better as well. At home he's giving up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings, 380 home ERA, compared to a 6.30 ERA on the road, and he is backed up by a lineup that has been in the top 3 in the American League in terms of home run power. Like, now you've got Mike Trout returning to the fold for this bunch, as he's been able to hit for a little bit more average than he did prior to the start of the season. Like, he, before he went on the injured list, was hitting below the nose line of 200. He's been able to rectify that a little bit more. You still have been able to get Taylor Ward to really crank out the deep ball for you. He's up to 17 home runs this season, though. He's only hitting a 214 with a 265 on base. Royce Hilaire, only about a 290 on base, but 8 home runs. Logan O'Hoppe, 14 bombs. He and Zach Neto are moving the line. Neto, 10 home runs. He's hitting for about a 270, but once again, very much a little bit of an all-or-nothing team with regards to the LA Angels, and I do think that for Bryce Miller, it's going to be a little bit rough going for him, as we've noticed these pitchers coming off the injury list this year have really been struggling, and he and George Kirby are very much examples of that. For Bryce Miller, he just has not been able to put it together thus far this season. Overall, a 5.36 ERA, and for Bryce Miller to start with, he's always had some very dramatic home and road splits. For his career, when he's been at home, he's been a rocking ERA that's hovering right around about a 3, and then a 4.66 road ERA, and when he's been on the road, he has been giving up for his career well north of 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. So a very interesting circumstance here. I did set the Seattle Mariners because they do have the bullpen advantage, what have you, at a minus 133 on the money line. So if we can get a plus 133, we'll be looking there. So it's a little bit of wait and see mode there, but that said, if I can also get a plus 124 or so on that Mariners run line, we'll be looking there. But here at the 9, I'm going to be in on that total over 973, 974 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles are on the road facing off against the Athletics. We do know that Dean Kramer is going to be on the bump for Baltimore, and for the A's, it's currently to be determined. So that's why this game is off the board, and we just have not been able to decipher who the A's have had pitching over the last week. It's been really random with all the openers, what have you. Right now, CBS Sports is projecting that it's going to be JP Sears, and if you do indeed get JP Sears, I set the A's at a minus 132 on the money line. We'll be willing to lay up to a minus 131 there, plus 133 or higher. Looking at the Orioles, and then set a total of 10.6, 10.5 or less in on the over, 11 or higher to the under. For Dean Kramer, his last few starts have been a little bit better, but I have absolutely no faith in this guy whatsoever. For Dean Kramer, throughout his career, he's given up the yard ball. He hasn't got a lot of strikeouts. Has been great with regards to his command. 470 ERA, 434 fielding dependent, 6.9 very nice strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up 1.3 home runs per 9. And again, he's given up a combined 2 runs in his last few starts, but one of those starts was a home start against the Chicago White Sox. He did look good in that road start against Boston Red Sox, but I think that was part of a double dip. There were some very funky circumstances going on with that. And then for JP Sears, he has been always given up quite a bit of contact in general throughout his career. He's never been a good swing and miss guy. 6.6 strikeouts per 9 this season. Only given up 1.6 walks per 9, but 1.9 yard balls per 9, and he's 5.05 ERA, 5.03 fielding dependent, and he's coming off of giving up 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. And you do have an Orioles lineup that's starting to round into form a little bit more. It's been a rough year for Adley Rutschman, but he's been able to give you a little bit more for this lineup, as he's been now hitting for a 225. He had a nice series against the Seattle Mariners, going deep yesterday. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, and he proved about a 255 to 260. And Ryan O'Hearn, north of 400 base, 9 home runs. Now, you need a bit more out of Hudson Kierstead, Colton Cowser, Ore Mateo, Dylan Carlson. These guys all hitting at 215 or lower, and this is an Orioles bullpen that is relatively unreliable. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. Felix Bautista still some pretty solid stuff, but Felix Bautista has been posting up north of a 3.5 ERA thus far this season. Then you got so many guys that you're trying to mix and match with. Brian Baker, Keegan Aiken have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but when you've got the likes of a Ynier Cano posting up north of a 4.5 ERA, Matt Bowman, Sir Anthony Dominguez, these guys north of a 4.80 ERA, that's a big giant issue. And for the A's, this team is currently dead last in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. You just do not have a lot of reliability for this team whatsoever, as you've been able to have one guy in this bullpen, Hogan Harris, provide a sub 4.25 ERA for guys that have seen at least 5 innings this season. That's not good. You've got Grant Holman along with Mitch Spence, both give you about a 4.5 ERA. They're looking to Mason Miller to be able to pick it up with his 5.5 ERA, but you do have in this lineup a lot of power. We saw that on display with the double-figure amount of runs that they put up yesterday. Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, both have been able to give you between a 3.33 to a 3.43 on base, and a combined 27 home runs. These 2 guys, Shea Langoliers, while Shea has banged for 10 home runs, he's back up to a 300 on base, and Jacob Wilson, 400 on base, hitting at 363. This guy has been a nice find. Miguel Andujar, when he's been out there, has been rock solid, but he's been dealing with a little bit of an injury. Nick Kurtz, a little bit of a young gun, he's been dealing with injury as well, but I do think that for JP Sears, he gets a little blaze. For Dean Kramer, I think that he gets a little blaze, and I just really do not trust in Dean Kramer here, so I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 131 with the A's, plus 133 or higher, looking at the Orioles, and then 10.5 or less, looking at the over 11 or higher, the under 975, 976 on the betting board. It is the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're going to be playing us the Miami Marlins. It's Zach Little is looking to come up big for the Tampa Bay Rays. Right now, it's all to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Marlins. Right now, CBS Sports is projecting Edward Cabrera, and if you do get Edward Cabrera, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 162 with regards to the money line of the Tampa Bay Rays, a plus 164 higher. I will be taking a look at the fish, and then with regards to the total, this is one that is very intriguing, as I made mine a 9.3, so a 9 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under for Edward Cabrera. When he's able to locate, he's actually really good. He's got some nice swing and miss stuff. There is actually quite a bit of something to like here. The problem is he never ever locates, and that's been a big giant issue for him. Now, For Edward Cabrera, last few starts have been a little bit more respectable overall for the season. He's posting up a 4.14 ERA, and he's been getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's been a little bit down there, but he's also reduced the walks, 3.7 walks per 9 innings, about a 3.99 fielding pen, giving up a little bit north of a home run per 9, and has given up 0 runs over his last 2 starts against the Angels and the San Francisco Giants, so credit where it is due. Meanwhile, for a little, well, he's been having his issues in terms of just giving up hard contact in general. He's given up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, very lucky to have the 3.86 ERA, so that's a 5.14 fielding pen, he's only getting about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and to his credit, he's been a little bit better here recently. 5 straight starts of 3 earned runs or fewer allowed, and he actually went for a complete game against the Houston Astros. They just had him eat it because they were up by so many runs that they just wanted to be able to save that bullpen, a bullpen that has been in the top 6 in the big leagues with regards to ERA, even with Hunter Biggie being out of the fold. You've had so many guys be able to step up, like you've had Emmanuel Rodriguez, you've been able to have guys like Eric Orze, Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, all be able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and then on the flip side, you do have a Miami Marlins team that is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Jesus Tinoco has been getting Tinoco'd around for well north of a 4 ERA. You've had your issues in terms of the long guys, like George Soriano has been absolutely awful for the team this season now. Ronnie Enriquez has been pretty solid. He's been able to spy a sub-2 ERA along with Anthony Bender, and they're looking at Jackson Junk to be able to have a little bit of upside there. And Tyler Phillips has been okay as well, but Calvin Fauché and company, it's been a little bit of an issue there. And then with regards to this Miami Marlins lineup, you've got Kyle Stowers, who's been able to give you 10 home runs. He's flying about a 350 on base. Eric Wagaman is moving the line, hitting for about a 250, but I mean, outside of Stowers, not a lot of power here, as Matt Mervis had 7 home runs, but they had to send him down to the minor league level because he couldn't move the line. Augustin Ramirez has been solid, 7 home runs, sitting for about a 240, 245, and now you're getting Dave Myers off the injured list, sitting overall at 300, but since coming off the injured list has not looked like himself. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, all of a sudden you're starting to get a little bit of hitting going for this team, as you got a pair of guys with 12 plus home runs. Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, both of these guys hitting between about a 250 to 260. Yandy Diaz has had a rough season with a 288 on base, so you need a little bit more there. But being able to get off the injured list, a guy that's able to do a nice job moving the line, hitting for above a 300, and Jake Magnum, I think is very big. Now, Chandler Simpson getting sent down to the minor league level was random, but Jonathan Aranda giving north of a 4 on base. I like what I'm seeing there, and I do think that for the Tampa Bay Rays team, they should be a pretty sizable favorite here. I did set them to where I'm willing to lay up to minus 162 on the money line, plus 125 or higher. I'm looking at the run line, plus 164 higher, looking at the Marlins on the money line, then 9 or less. I'm going to be in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under 977, 978 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road facing off against the Washington Nationals, as Patrick Corbin is on the bump for Texas and Mike Soroka is on the bump for Washington. Texas opening up a minus 125 to a minus 130 favorite, plus 105 to a plus 115. That number on Washington. 9.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. Going to be willing to take a shot on the under. Recognize that these are not necessarily two of the most reliable pitchers in the world, but what has not been reliable has been the Texas Rangers offense. 3.1 runs per contest, and I'm going to be willing to back the Washington Nationals on the money line. I was willing to take pretty much any sort of a plus number. I set them at a plus 101 with Mike Soroka. It's been hot and cold from this season, 581 ERA, but I believe that he's pitching a little bit better than this. Fielding independent is more in that neighborhood of a 456, as he's getting 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up 1.7 walks per 9. The big issue has been the deep ball. He's giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but the Rangers have just not shown a lot of fight, and they have not shown a lot of might with regards to their bats. As you've had Wyatt Langford be able to give you 11 home runs, that's nice, but he's starting to slide with regards to his average, hitting about a 236, and then you've had all sorts of issues with regards to Jock Peterson, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, Marcus Semien, all hitting at 215 or lower, all hitting for 7 home runs or fewer. Corey Seager has not looked like himself since coming out the injured list. Josh Smith, Josh Young, these guys have been pretty solid, as you've been able to have both of these guys hitting between about a 260 to 270, but I mean, this has been a ghastly lineup, to say the least. And for the Texas Rangers, it's not like they've got some sort of an amazing bullpen. It's right around about league average with regards to that bullpen. You've had Chris Martin be able to give you some really good innings this year. It's up to ERA. They've got him now off the injured list after he was a little bit banged up. Sean Armstrong, the other Sean, has been okay, about a 365 ERA, but Jacob Webb has been an issue. Hobie Milner has been someone that I like, along with Robert Garcia, give you a sub-3 ERA, but this team has been trying to mix and match all season long with the long guys like Jacob Latz and company. And for the Washington Nationals, this has been a brutal bullpen. They are in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Andrew Chafin has been able to give them some pretty solid innings, and the closer in Kyle Finnegan has been good, but these guys like an Eduardo Salazar posting up north of a 5 ERA, Brad Lord north of a 4 ERA. You've got a lot of guys that are just an issue, but for Washington, offense has really picked it up. In the month of May, they were actually actually 7th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. CJ Abrams, 8 home runs, nearly a 340 on base. James Wood, 16 bombs, nearly a 380 on base. Ahmed Rosario is hitting for a 300. Now, you need Jacob Cruz and Josh Bell to hit for more average, but both of these guys have played for power. Keibert Ruiz is moving the line along. Luis Garcia, both of these guys hitting about a 260. And for Patrick Corbin, well, he's been off to a relatively nice start this season. 371 ERA, 450 fielding independent. He's giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. He's getting just 6.5 strikeouts / 7 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 as well. And I do think that there's going to be some negative regression coming for him, especially against the Washington Nationals team that is hitting the ball relatively well. So I'm going to be one of the back of the Nationals. Have any sort of plus number on the money line. And with regards to the total, I set mine at a 9.2. So here at the 9.5, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. And we're going to have things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are going to be playing against the Chicago Cubs. Right now for the Cubs, it's to be determined. This should be Ben Brown's spot in the rotation, but we don't know whether there's going to be an opener or not for him. Meanwhile, it is going to be Tariq Skubal on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. Opener or not, I have this relatively the same. I set the Tigers at a minus 176 on the money line. I'm going to go up to a minus 175 there, and a plus 118 or higher. We'll be looking at their run line. Need at least a plus 177 to fire in on the Cubs. And semi-total at 7.8. 7.5 or less in on the over, 8 or higher the under. Now, I recognize that the Cubs are the number one team with regards to scoring in all of baseball, but for one, this is a very nice pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Detroit. And for two, Tariq Skubal has been that good. He's got a 2.26 ERA, fielding independent, more on a 1.88. 11.8 strikeouts, a 0.8 walks per 9 innings. Now, 14-14 strikeout to walk ratio, and for Tariq Skubal, most of his issues have actually come on the road. That West Coast road trip to begin the season screwed him up a little bit. Buck 83 home ERA with 1 home run given up in 39 in the third inning. So you got an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, and I think that Tariq Skubal is the immovable object, and he's not going to be moved. Now, for the Cubs, you've got so many guys that are supplying a double-figure amount of homers. Say Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, Dansby Swanson, Kyle Tucker, and Tucker's been able to give you 395 on base. Crow Armstrong, sealing bags, sitting for a 280. He has been rock solid, up to 16 bombs for him. And then you've got other guys that are doing a nice job getting on base to be able to make these home runs worth even more. Ian Happ at 345 on base. Michael Busch at 375 on base. Nico Horner hitting darn near 300. And for the Cubs, to their credit, the bullpen has looked a little bit better. They're above league average with regards to their bullpen ERA. Porter Hodge is on the injured list, but he hasn't been good this year. Ryan Presley has been an issue, but Drew Pomeranz along with Daniel Palencia have been able to give you sub-3 ERAs along with Brad Keller. So these guys are starting to step up in a big way. But for the Detroit Tigers, it's all about bullpen madness. This team, since the All-Star break of the 2024 season, they have been numero uno with regards to their bullpen ERA. So many guys like Brandon Herter, who you can utilize as starter if you want to. Tommy Canley, who I know that they utilized him yesterday. Chase Lee, Will Vest, all these guys have been able to give you a sub-225 ERA. Brendan Hennepy is back down below a 3 ERA, so they've been doing a nice job of mixing and matching. And then you've got a trio of guys with 13-plus home runs, and Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, and in the case of Green and Carpenter, both hitting above a 270. Torkelson, 340 on base. Gleyber Torres is hitting at 275. Zach McKinstry, 360 on base. Cole Keith is starting to move the line as well. So I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they do find a way to be able to get this one done, and I do think that they should be very sizable favorites here with what Tariq Skubal has been able to do. And for Ben Brown, if he is like a bulk appearance guy / a starter in this one, he's got really good swing and miss stuff, but I mean, he just has been leaving the ball out over the plate a little bit too much. If he gets hit, he gets hit hard. 5.72 ERA, giving up right around about 3 walks per 9 innings, a 3.11 fielding independent. So to his credit, he's been able to do a solid job of being able to keep the ball in the yard with about a home run per 9 innings. He's giving up more or less a whole bunch of doubles, and he had a pair of starts before they utilized him as a bulk guy in 6 scoreless innings against the Cincinnati Reds, where he given up a combined 14 runs against the Reds and the Miami Marlins. And you do want to note this with Ben Brown. When he's been at home, he's actually been pretty solid. When he has been on the road, that's where the issues have really been, as on the road a 5.88 ERA. So that's a bit of an issue. So I did set it to where I'm willing to lay up to minus 175 on the Tigers money line, plus 120 or higher looking at that run line, and then plus 177 or higher looking at the Cubs, and 7.5 or less in on the over, 8 or higher the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to John Bollman with Baseball with Bollman for joining me in the live segment. If you did like hearing from his fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter / X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind there's maybe does not matter, so per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm going to be with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the baseball season, so I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.